Story posted by you/Fayemoon. Am I the a-hole for throwing a dirty little family secret in my mom's face? There is a family secret that has been hidden for the last decade. It strained my relationship with my mom significantly. While my dad was still alive, she was having an affair with my uncle. My dad got into an accident and passed away, and before the funeral even happened, my mom had moved my uncle in, pretending to extended family that he was there to help us. A couple of weeks after the funeral, everyone else found out, and they are estranged from my mom and uncle now. My mom was pregnant during all this, and it was very hard as a 7-year-old to accept what was happening. My mom and uncle got married before their daughter was born, and since then they've had a son. My relationship with my mom and uncle is not great. It has sucked living with them and seeing their happy ever after play out after what they did. Not even just to my dad, but to me. My mom has always gotten up my butt about my attitude toward her, and her husband and I have always tried to ignore it for the most part. But the other night she and I got into a fight when their daughter asked why I didn't like her parents, and I told her to ask them. My mom said it was like telling them there was something they should know. I told her she was the one who ducked her husband's brother, moved him in when he died while having a kid in the house, and then telling the kid to lie about it so the funeral could pass and she could get money from her in-laws instead of being cut off. I told her she was a disgusting person and I couldn't wait to move out in a few months. Am I the a-hole? My dad died in a workplace accident. My mom and uncle were kissing in front of me the day he died, so the affair started before. It's also not really an affair if he had been gone. Still ducked up to do it in front of me, but still. I'm my dad's only child. Both kids are my uncle's. I have contact with my extended family behind my mom's back. She and my uncle are completely cut off from both maternal and paternal families. Once I can, and with the advice of some comments this might be sooner than expected, I'll be getting the hell out of this house and they will never see me again. I don't give a shit. My mom and uncle are cut off from the second I leave, and I will be free. Now, Redditors gives the best suggestion to OP on this situation. 10,000,000% not the a-hole. It is not your job to shoulder your mom's mistakes and shame on her for putting that responsibility on you when you were a child without even batting an eye or thinking the ramifications this would have on you and your relationship with her. Usually, I'd say, well, maybe there's a better way to approach this situation, but you had to do what you had to do, and I actually think there's no more of an effective way of doing so. It seems she wasn't very attentive or empathetic towards what you needed, and this was the only way to get heard, to get her to hear you, and to hold her accountable for her actions. Now that someone else knows, and she'll have to explain right then. I'm interested in an update, if you're willing. I hope everything has cooled down after this blowout and everyone can keep it together until you're able to get out of there. Hang in there. Not the a-hole, Hamlet. Don't go on a killing spree over it, though. On a more serious note, that's quite the family dynamic you have there, and I would absolutely consider going very low contact with them and reconnecting with the rest of the family ASAP. Being unaware of what was going on in your family outside of your own perspective and knowledge, I can't make any concrete conclusions. With that said, it sounds like your mother and uncle were absolutely flouting any sense of respect or decency for the family, his brother or her husband, and you. It's incredibly classless, and frankly I'm hard pressed to think of much that would be a more a-hole act than that. If they are getting defensive about it now, it's because they knew from the start how ducked up their Weasley little affair was. I can think of some possible mitigating factors for their situation, though you would firmly remain not an a-hole, but with my present knowledge I'm pretty convinced they are both utter bastards. I'm hugely biased, but not the a-hole. Ever. People like this tend to make their children doubt their own instincts, morals, and ethics. It is not your job to keep her secrets. She is an adult, and if she doesn't like the truth of her actions, that is entirely her problem, not yours. Something that helped me, that may help you, is knowing that you are entitled to completely cutting her out of your life when you move. You do not owe anyone a relationship, your time, your energy, etc. who has a negative impact on your life. It's scary to cut off part of an emotional and possibly financial support system, but separating from someone who causes you pain is freeing. and enables you to learn how to thrive without that person constantly leeching your energy from you. I hope you can get to a place where you feel free of this and gain some peace. Wish you the best, and hopefully those few months go fast. Not the a-hole, but I'm gonna say that you should be careful with how your siblings learn about this information. You are, understandably, very angry about this situation, and the information should not come from you. While your anger is understandable, please don't take it out on your half siblings, and to your credit, it doesn't sound like you've done this yet. They didn't ask to be a part of this, they were just born into it. They sound very young, and there could be a lot of emotional trauma from finding out the story of their parents getting together too young and without proper counseling. Your mom and uncle need to make a game plan to explain this to your siblings at an appropriate age. It's also on them to handle your siblings noticing your anger to your parents. They made their bed and they have to lie in it. If your mom and uncle will take any advice from you, you should have them consult a counselor or therapist. The situation they've put all three of you in is so many levels of messed up. If they care about the emotional impact of it at all, they need to make sure you all have mental health care access. Everyone suck here. With compassion, I would have done this differently. I hope it all works out, and I'm so sorry you are going through this. It's super ducked up. To be fair, you didn't directly tell her what happened. But at the end of the day, I feel like that was a little bit of a rash decision. It seems like you used this situation to get back at your mom and uncle at the expense of your sister's well-being. I'm not sure if you're moving out because you're about to be 18. My only concern is that your sister is 11. That's really young to have that thrown in her face. Especially since it has nothing to do with her personally. Aside from that, those are her parents. Yes, it's ducked up. But at the end of the day, it's better to have that conversation with her when she is older. You may not have to live with them much longer, but this is her home for the next 7 years. Story posted by u/throwaway999712. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on someone who parked in my driveway? Last Saturday our neighbors had a yard sale. There was a decent amount of people that stopped by, and they were fine parking in my neighbor's driveway. We live on a very busy street, so parking on the road is a nuisance as there is no shoulder and people tend to drive well over the 35 miles per hour speed limit that is posted. To be clear, it is very obvious that this is our driveway on our property. We do not share an easement with the neighbors, so this person purposely pulled into our driveway because the neighbors was full from other people at their yard sale. The way he was parked completely blocked both of our cars in, so if we needed to get out, we couldn't. About an hour into the sale, we noticed a car pull into our driveway. I asked my husband if he was expecting anyone, and he said that he wasn't, so he went outside to see what they wanted. He saw the driver, a passenger and 2 children get out of the car and walk over to the neighbor's yard sale. My husband called out to the driver of the car and told him he can't park there and to move his car. He told my husband that he had nowhere to park and the kids were with him and it was too dangerous to park on the street. My husband said he understood, but he needed to move the car out of our driveway. The man proceeded to argue with my husband until he finally told him to either move his car or we will call and have it towed. My husband came inside and asked me to call a non-emergency police line to see if someone could come out and ask the driver to move the car out of our driveway. An officer arrived within 10 minutes and my husband explained the situation to him. The other driver began ranting at the officer about not having a safe place to park, and the officer told him that it didn't matter, that he was on our property and he could either move the car or the officer would call to have him towed. The man started screaming curses at my husband and told him that if one of his kids got injured because he had to park in the road he was going to sue us. My neighbors, the ones having the yard sale, came over and told us that we were a-holes for making such a commotion over them being parked in our driveway. My husband explained that they were the ones having the yard sale, not us, and that he would have never allowed strangers to park in their driveway because it's just rude. Now my neighbors are bad-mouthing us to all of our other neighbors. Some agree that we were in the right, but the ones to the immediate right of us are now being cold to us and telling us that we are insensitive and have no sense of community. So am I the a-hole, or should I have let it go and let the man park in my driveway? People keep asking why we called the police. We called them because the driver was becoming increasingly hostile and swearing. He threatened to sue us. We would most likely have let him stay if he had just asked us first. The second he started cursing at my husband, he had to leave. We do not know him, did not know what he would do or was capable of, nor did we invite him. He was there for a neighbor's yard sale that had nothing to do with our property. Now, Redditors gives the best suggestion to OP on this situation. Oh man. I was totally going to berate you because it's so obvious that you're not the a-hole, but I see some other commenters that think you should have let the man park in your drive because you weren't going anywhere and it's only for 15 minutes. No one is entitled to park in your drive without your permission unless it's an emergency vehicle. I'm mostly baffled by how you got the police there in under 10 minutes. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole at all. If you had an emergency and had to move or even call an ambulance, things could have gotten really bad just because someone felt like they were entitled to park in your driveway. I don't understand why people think it's okay to use private property as a parking space. You did the right thing, Imo, and your neighbors who thought it would be okay can offer up their own driveway for parking next time someone has a yard or garage sale. Not the a-hole. Contrary to another post, you did attempt to ask the owner of the car to move. They insisted it wasn't safe to park on the road as a defense. While that comment is likely true, the remaining option for that person was to not go to the yard sale. Instead they decided that the yard sale was worth parking illegally. You're 100% not the a-hole, even if you had nowhere to be. It's your property. If you had a visitor show up, they'd have nowhere to park. If an emergency caused you to need to leave, you couldn't do so. If you decided you wanted to sip tea while laying on your driveway, you couldn't. That person was not entitled to your property. Anyone that disagrees is wrong. Now maybe if that person had knocked and spoke to you and asked if it's be okay for a short while, but they weren't courteous enough for that. On Reddit, you're not the a-hole. In the real world, however, it's more of an everyone suck here. Obviously, the man should not have gotten angry and threatening after you confronted him. He sounds like a nutcase, and calling the police was the correct course of action at that point. But I also have to wonder if you spend your free time shouting at kids to stay off your lawn. I assume you've had the property line marked so you don't accidentally mow a hair's width of their grass too, right? If I were in the same situation, I wouldn't even notice unless I had somewhere to be. Letting someone park in your driveway for the 15 minutes it takes them to pick through your neighbor's stuff may be inconvenient, but it's neighborly. It was no skin off your nose to let a dad and his kids park in your driveway, but you made it an issue anyway. So yeah, legally, you're 100% not the a-hole. But I would hate having someone like you as a neighbor. Everyone suck here. Not the a-hole for all the people asking what's the big deal letting other people park in OP's private property driveway. It's called emergencies. Anything can happen in someone's life at any time. I'd want to drop what I was doing and leave and not get blocked in by some random person in my own driveway. Also, since it's private property, you don't need to share it if you don't want to, and you don't need to answer to anyone else. That's the beauty about being a sole homeowner. Did the neighbors ever say, hey, we are having a yard sale? Or did they just assume OP would be fine with it and with people parking in their driveway? Talk about sense of community. My neighbors would at least give me a heads up if they were having a yard sale. Not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole.